It's a store.
Jorge, ¿qué tal?
Buenas noches, preparándome para Yontev.
Ya acá está todo el pescado vendido.
Ya lo vendiste todo.
Todo. No puedo comer ni en el baño.
Eso me dijo mi señora. Punto.
Sí, ahora salimos a comer porque no puedo tocar acá, no puedo tocar allá, ya me tiene podrido.
Así es.
Bueno, la verdad que trabajan mucho para Ionte.
Sí. Me mandaron unos chistes acerca del tema.
Sí.
De eso. Donde la gente.
Espere, que voy a cortar.
No te preocupes.
Vav Amid Aleph, 6a.
You get regards, Ernie, from Ronnie Nagel on a plane on his way to Miami to visit his family.
He just texted
He just
you?
left. He left today.
Uh,
So,
Very nice.
you know what? Good. Go ahead.
Well, Harold also, I think, is in Miami.
Yeah, he left early in the morning.
He left this morning. Amarle, mi karaminan le ale bal korche. We're dealing with the halacha that if a woman has been declared a sota and the husband dies before he takes her to the Beis Hamikdash, and there's a brother, the brother's not allowed to do yibum because the Gemara said she already ruined one family. What do we want to ruin another family? So the Gemara is saying we don't force anyone to marry her like a regular person, because we asked the question, fine. Since she was an adulteress, if she marries somebody else, she's also going to ruin a family. So that's what the Gemara answered, but we don't force anybody to get married to her. They choose out of their own free will. They better, buyer beware. The intended husband needs to investigate her carefully, like any person who gets married to a woman. Ikedi Amri, other people learn this approach differently. Amrav Yosef. Hakasuv Kro Acher, because it says, the pasuk says, Why is she called why is it called acher? She'ein ben zugo shel rishon. This was not the bashert, her first bashert. Because Shazeh Hotzi Rishon Beso. Husband number one got rid of this evil woman. V'zeh ichnis Rishon L'soch Beso. And this new husband is taking this Russia into his family. And we're saying that we should force the brother to do Yibum? Absolutely not. However, Abaya, based on that, Elamiata, Nisis la'acher. Let's say she marries she doesn't get married, there's no Yibum, she gets married to a third party. Umeis, below Bani. And she did not commit adultery against that husband. And he dies without children. Lotis Yabein, Dakosov Kro Acher, Kabidai B'Shem Tov Kaimot. She lived with a Shem Tov with this new husband. Now, Rava gives a different shot.
But Ernie, wouldn't this be the case when she says twice a widow, she shouldn't marry a third time?
No, but the first husband didn't die. The first husband divorced her, was forced to divorce.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it's okay.
Why isn't it like a divorced woman that if she's a divorced woman marries a Kohen, and then the second husband dies, the stigma of never goes off of her as far as being prohibited to a Kohen. She's always a grusha.
Kohen would not be allowed to marry her.
That's right.
She would never can marry a Kohen. She could never marry. Her third husband can never be a Kohen because the stigma stays with her.
The second husband couldn't be a Kohen either.
That's right.
No, but I know, but that's right. But let's see, she marries the first is a Kohen, divorce her. The second husband, let's say, is a can't marry a Kohen. And then if she marries the second husband and he dies, she still has the stigma of the first husband as being a grusha. She can't even marry the third husband.
That's
Same
correct.
thing here. So maybe she shouldn't be able to marry a third husband because she has a stigma on her as being a zona.
But a non-Kohen can marry a grusha and a zona if you're not a Kohen. I don't know, there's no prohibition to a regular Yisrael to marry a grusha or to marry a zona.
I'm talking about the stigma should stay on her though, just like
There's no stigma. There's no stigma.
Okay.
You're talking about she was an adulteress?
Right.
Okay, she's an adulteress against husband number one. So husband number one is forced to give her a divorce. Now she can marry another person. If she's not an adulteress with the other person,
I see.
there's no problem. That's in fact why Abaya asked. There certainly could be Yubim with a husband number two. Now Rava is going to learn a Kal V'chomer. Now, she was married to her husband. She's allowed to live with him. But
Yeah,
not,
sorry.
but not-
Where we holding on what Daf? Where?
Vav Amud Aleph near the top.
Near the top. Okay, thank you. Sorry.
10 lines down, Walter.
Yeah. Imnesra b'muter la. If now we say she's forbidden to live with her husband because she's an adulteress. Now, normally, a brother-in-law, she can't live with her brother-in-law, with her husband's brother. It's usr. Usr la kol shekain. So she's prohibited to the index husband. She's certainly going to be prohibited to the yoveh. So Amarle Abaya Elamayata Kohen Gadol Shekidish es almana. Now a Kohen Gadol cannot marry an almana. He gave her kiddushin. The kiddushin is chal, so it's not like it's not chal because it's not an erva. It's a chayav lav, and we hold not like Rabbi Akiva that there is kiddushin by chayav lav. So the kiddushin takes hold, and then he dies. V'yesh lo ach kohen hedyer, and he has a brother. Now, regular kohanim can marry an almana. So, lotis yabim. What? And you're going to tell me there's not going to be yibum? Im nesr b'muter law. The kohen gadol is prohibited with this almana. So we should say the same kavachomer. Basar lo kol shekain, to the brother-in-law who's be'isser, certainly there should be no permission. The Gemara says, Nesra hasir v'kaimo. It's not Nesra. The almana is prohibited not because she was an adulteress, because the Torah says you can't marry an almana. Ella Asr lahu, just that he's prohibited to live with her because she's namana. The Gemara tries another approach. Elaish's kohen shenensa. The Cohen's wife was raped. Now Cohen's wife, if he's raped, he can't live with her anymore. He has to give her divorce. But he died before he died. It's prohibited for her to live, for him to live with this woman. But before he gives her a divorce, may v'yesh lo ach halal. He has an ach from the same father, but a different mother, and the mother was a grusha. The mother of this brother was a grusha. So he's not a kohen anymore, it's a halal. Are you going to tell me lo tisyabein because in nesr b'muter la b'asr la kol shekain? So honest be Yisrael mishra. A halal can marry a woman who's been raped. Like Isser, so there's no Isser because we have to view the brother as a Yisrael because he's a halal, he's not a kohen. Mishnah. Elu asuras mela'echol b'truma. The following women, normally their wives can eat truma, but if suspicion falls on them, or we'll see what the cases are, they stop eating truma. The woman says, she confesses to her husband, I slept with another man. Or a case, bo edim shehitmeya. Edim come to say we saw her have relations with another man. Or a woman whose husband warned her not to sequester in a room with a person, and she went ahead and sequestered. The din now is that the husband has to take her up to the base of Eidish to drink the sotah waters. But she says, Eini shoyse. She refuses to drink. So, and the fourth case is let's say the husband does not want to make her drink the sotah water. Or in a case, we're on the way to the base of Mikdash, in a hotel, on the way up to base of Mikdash, the husband has relations with her. In that case, the mime is not boidiker. It won't work. It has no power. So in all these cases of the Mishnah, she stops eating truma if the husband was a kohen. The following halacha was said by Rav Sheshes va'anerlon einin mimas nisan. And he opened our eyes to understand certain hidden things in our mission. Sota sheyesh la'edim b'mdina sayam. You have a woman that the husband warned her not to go into her room. And she went into her room. And now the husband's supposed to take her up to the base of English to drink the sotah waters. But there are witnesses in China.
Hello?
There are witnesses in China, not here, that witnessed her having relations with a certain.
Estaba preguntando si recibiste mi email.
Mario, you got to put it on. Mario,
Alright.
Mario, you have to put it on mute. So the din is Eina Mayim Boit Kinosa. So even though she sinned, she won't get damaged by the Sotah waters. Because these witnesses could take her to regular Bezdin and declare that she's an adulteress. She could be put to death. We don't need proof through a nace of the Sotah waters. My time, why doesn't the water work? The Amar Krav V'Nistra V'Hi Nitmara. The aid ain't ba. Where no witness knows what happened in that room. The Leka di Yadaba. Lafuke Haida Ha'ika di Yadaba. There are Adim in China. They're not here and we don't know about them. But if there are witnesses in the world that she had had relations in that room, the Sotah waters will not work on her. Now, how did our Mishnah reveal anything? Diktoni. V'shebolo edim shehitmei. One of the examples the Mishnah brought, where she stops eating truma, is edim came that saw actual intercourse. The asu edim amos. When did these edim show up? If they showed up before she drank, so she's an adulteress, zoinahi. And of course, she would not be even allowed to drink the water, and she would be usher to eat trum as a zona. So we're talking about lebasar deshasai. The edim came after she drank the water. Now, it only works if what usually happens when a woman is guilty and she drinks the Sotah waters, her stomach explodes. So if we follow the halacha of Rav Amram, that a Sotah, where there are edim present in the world, the mayim will not work on her. So we understand. That's why she's still around and hasn't died. So now, if her stomach had exploded, and then these edim show up after she drank to claim that she had committed adultery, it's clear that she tigloi milsas marfed sari shakrininu. Or let's say the mayim, if you're going to say the mayim will work, and the reason why she didn't explode is because really she didn't commit, she didn't have intercourse in that room. Then retroactively, you're going to say that these edim were liars by claiming that they had seen her have intercourse?
Would we say this is the same as the case of B'Matzi of Rabbi Eliezer and the Tanor, that these waters have a din of a baskol? Meaning, why should we believe these edim relative to the waters?
So hang on. So Kenny, very good.
Meaning, maybe we would say the waters have a status of a baskol, and you ain't some chemala baskol. You got to do a lot,
No, it's not baskol. Rav Sheshes made a statement that if there are edim in the world who knew
the waters don't work.
So the problem is like that. If that's the case, no. If we say the waters don't work, so that I understand why she's still alive. But if you say the waters work, meaning if she's still alive, that implies that she was innocent. So now what? Based on that, we're going to say that the edim that showed up to say she was guilty are lying edim. So that can't be. Rav Yosef, it becomes more complicated. Really, the waters.
Ernie, can I ask something?
Yes.
How is she going to be asked to drink the waters before Adams arrive.
because she drinks, the drinking water happens when there are Adim that heard the husband warn her not to sequester herself in a room.
Okay.
And another two Adim show up to say,
But
we
it says
saw,
here from overseas.
hang on. Two other Adim come and say, we saw her go into a room alone with the person. But they didn't know what happened in that room. You with me so far?
Yes.
So it's a suffix what happened in that room. So based on that, the husband's supposed to take her up to drink the Sotah waters. Okay. Now, if Adim show up after she drank and say, we were there and there was a window in the back and we actually saw them have intercourse in that room. Mishnah described a case that if there are Adim somewhere in the world that we didn't know about, when she drank the waters will not work on her. So I understand if she's still alive and then the Adim show up and it didn't work because her stomach didn't explode. You know why it didn't explode? Because there's a rule, hamayim ein boikinosa, the waters don't work. If there are Adim somewhere in the world, even in China, that we didn't know about, that knew exactly what happened in that room. But if she comes out, if we say Mayim is boidiker and she's still alive, so what, are we going to use that to claim that the witnesses are lying? So Amalei Rav Yosef lo'oima emelecha mayim boikinasa. Really, everybody holds that the waters will always work. Now, why is she alive? Eimer zechus toilet. She has merits. She gives tzedakah. She davens. She keeps a kosher home. And therefore, that's what's keeping her alive right now, her merits. And b'may kamiflagi. What's the machlokas? Misnavna de Rebbe. If merits keep one of these women alive, what exactly is going to be the case? That's not Rebbe Omer. Zuchus toile b'mayim. He agrees that merits will allow a woman to stay alive. But Eina Yoledes, normally, if a woman is innocent, she becomes pregnant and has a male child. But according to Rebbe, if she was really guilty, but she was not killed immediately because she had merits, Eina Yoledes, we notice that she doesn't become pregnant. Ve'eina mishabechas el misnavdo velechas. She doesn't thrive. She gets weaker and weaker. L'sof she mesa bosa misa, and then she dies. So Rav Sheshes Sovar, Bein l'Rebbe, Bein l'Rabbanon, Havi misnavna. According to everybody, she will go downhill. Based on that, we're going to see very clearly that she was guilty because she's going downhill. And if the Mayim worked on her, even though there was Adim in China, we would know about it. So we'd have to say that if there are Adim in the world, the Mayim doesn't work because we would recognize whether it worked or didn't. But Masif Rav Shimi Barashi, Rav Shimon Omer, Ein Zchus Toil B'Mayim Amari. There is no concept of the waters not working if she's guilty. If she's guilty, her stomach's going to explode, even if she has merits. Because V'mata Omer Zchus Toil B'Mayim Amarim, Madcha Ata Samayim B'fnei Kol Anoshim HaShoysos. Number one, if the fear of drinking this water, where we want people to confess before they drink, is going to go away, because they're going to think that they have merits and they'll drink. And really, we don't want them to drink. We try to encourage them not to drink. Vice versa, the women who knew that they were innocent, and they drank. Well, if there are women who are guilty who are also not going to die right away, even completely innocent women who drink and are alive, people are going to think that they're guilty. The only reason that they're alive is because they have merits, right? Other people say, so Rav Shimon rejects that whole notion. And Vim Isa, if it's correct, that if there are Eidim in China, the waters won't work, that Yesh Eidim D'Yisayam Nami, Atamot Shem Ala Torah Shashu. Innocent women who drank and don't die, people will say, hey, no, you. Really, they were guilty. And we don't know Eidim showed up because they were in China. So, the Rab Shimon Ka'amrit, you're asking me a kasha based on Rab Shimon, of course, since he claims that merits will not protect her, the fact that there are Eidim in the world also won't protect her. Mosifra. Elu shemin choseyan nisrafos. Part of the Sotah process is that the women brings a korban mincha of barley, which has to be offered. So let's say they were miskadesh a mincha. But she says, how Omeres Tmeya Ani. At some point, she says, I had committed adultery. Or, so in that case, we burn the mincha. We don't offer it because she's not a sotah anymore. Or, Shabolo Edim Shi Tmeya. Or witnesses come to say that they saw her have intercourse. And the Gemara wants to know, the Asu Edim Amos. When did these intercourse witnesses show up? If it was before they sanctified the flour in the kli for the mincha, well then tepuk l'chulin. If they said, okay, game over, she's not a sotah, she's a guilty woman, then the flour would not be hegdish. Must be lebasar de kodesh. They already sanctified the flour in the kli sharetz, and then they showed up. Now, and if, even though there were Eidim, the water's going to work, Alma bas makadishu makravi, it has sanctity, and the chikodesh mikar shaper kodesh, and therefore it was a good hegdish. And now when the Eidim come, mishum hachim in chas nisrefes, because now we know that there's no right to make her drink the water because we have Eidim that she was an adulteress. But if you say the process is not going to function if there are Eidim in the world, then the sanctification of the flour in the kli didn't really work, was done by mistake. And why should we burn it? Like all other cases of toes. You know what? This isn't talking about the original Sotah case where the husband warned her not to go into a room and she went into a room. We just don't know what happened in that room. And now Eidim comes from China because they know what happened in that room. No, this is a second case. Kagon Shazin Sabazara. The husband is bringing her up. And now, while they're up in the base of Migdash, she fools around with another guy. The Chikodesh Mikara Shapir Kodesh. And the original case that the husband came for is a good Agdish. So, Maskif Rav Masharshe. Rav Masharshe says, how could she fool around in the base of Migdash? Balo Pirche Kuhuna Malavino so. We're going to learn this, that when they get to the base of Migdash, pairs of Kohanim are chaperoning her to avoid this whole issue. So the Gemara says, she had adultery with one of these Kohanim. And Rav Ashi Amar Kagon Shenitzrachal in the Kaveh. She had to go to the bathroom, so she needed privacy. The Atu Pirchekuna Bekipa Talilu. I mean, they don't lock her up in a dungeon. So it's not 100% protection. So she committed znus in the bathroom. So Rav Papa Amar La'olam Kedamrina Mikara. Rav Papa says you don't have to come on to such a case. We can talk about the original index case, and these Eidim in China had seen what was going on in the husband's case. Utika Amrit, Tepok Lachulin, that really, that which we really, Imekar Adin, it could go Lachulin. We don't have to burn it. But they make a Gzeira to burn it, Midrabanan. Because if we allow someone to take it out Lachulin, people watching what's going on are going to think Shema Yomru Motzim Klishos L'chol. That you could put something in a klishor to sanctify it, and then immediately take it out and use it without pidyon. And we don't want people to make a mistake regarding that halacha, so we demand that it be burnt. But Meikar Adin, it doesn't have to be burnt. Masif Rav Mary. You have a sota who is brought mincha, and nitmeis mincha, so the mincha became tamei. If the flour became tamei ad shelo kitcha b'kli, harei kachol menachos, it's like all of the menachos v'tipodeh. You can redeem it. If you put it in a kli, so it got hegdish, you should kach a kli, and then it became tamei, harei kachol menachos v'tisaref. It's like any other mincha that becomes tamei, you have to burn it. Now, once you have the flour in a kli and it's sanctified, the process of a mincha is the kohen puts his hand in it, he takes some of the flour, cleans it off, and that's called the kmitza. And he puts the flour that he was koimitz in another kli to sanctify it. Kodesh HaKoimitz, v'lo hispik lakrivo. And he didn't get a chance to throw the flour on the mizbeach. Ad shemeis hu, the husband of the sota woman dies. Oh, ad shemeis he, or she dies. So the mincha is not good anymore because the balabatim are dead. Harei kechol hamnachos v'sisarev. Now, karev hakoimitz, the kmitza has been thrown on the fire. However, now normally what happens after you throw the kmitza, the kohanim eat the remaining mincha. Lo hispik lechol shirayim, and the kohanim didn't eat the shirayim ad shemesu ad shemesu. Harei kechol hamnachos v'seyachel. That's not ma'akev, the eating of the shirayim. Once the koimitz was nizrak, they have kapara. Sh'ala safek bos metchila. Kippur sfeik of achala. This mincha is brought because we don't know what happened in the room. And therefore, there's atonement, and we move on. Now, Baula Eidim Shitmeya, if Eidim showed up before they offered the mincha, and they testified that she had committed adultery, minchas and nisrefes, we burn the mincha. Now, those witnesses who came and looked through the window and saw this couple having intercourse, they have to say that we saw it Monday afternoon at 1:00, because Beis Din will ask them when and where and what time. Why is that? Because if two other Eidim show up and say, you know, at Monday, 1:00, we were with these two people in Disneyland. How could they? So that's called Eidim Zomamin. So Nimtzu Eidim Zomamin min Chasa Chulin. So the Eidim go away, they're knocked out of the box. The Eidim that testified that she committed adultery. And this mincha now goes l'chulin. Now, according to Rav Sheshes, this mincha was already niskadish bekli. And there's no gzeira. Let's burn it because we're worried about people thinking that something that was miskadesh can go out without pidyon. So this is a kash on Rav Sheshes. And for the Gemara, Eidim Zoimim Kamrit. You ask me a shayla about Eidim Zoimim. Eidim Zoimim Kala Islu. Everybody hears about the case of Eidim Zoimim. So nobody's gonna question why this mincha went l'chulin. In a regular guy, they're not gonna know. But Eidim Zoimim has a call, everyone's gonna know. Tanya Kavotz Rav Sheshes. There's a brisa to support what Rav Sheshes said, that the Mayim doesn't check a woman if there are Eidim in China, but v'lav mitameh, but not for his reasonings. The pasuk says, "Im lo nitma'ah ha'isha v'tohorehi," if the woman had not been violated and is tahor, v'niksa v'nizra zara, she's going to have a child. That's the pasuk. So it says tahora v'lo sheyesh lo eidim b'medina sayam. Tahora means there are no witnesses in the world that saw what's going on. And therefore, if there are witnesses, the Mayim will not check her and she won't have the child. Then it says utahora v'lo shetasel schus. The Mayim will not check her immediately if she has merits. Because the pasuk says, "Haisha utahora he imlo nitma haisha utahora he." The he comes to exclude v'lo sheyisu v'yitnu ba moizres balvana. These are women who weave at night by the light of the moon, and they gossip. If they know that she committed adultery, then the Mayim will not work on her, because we don't. The only time we need the water to work is if we have a suffix, and in those cases we don't have a suffix. Everyone knows about it. Now, Rav Shimon, who we learned tonight, holds that merits will not save the woman. Nihi devav loy darish. This extra, where it says im lo nitma isha utahorahi, this extra vav, he doesn't darshan. So he doesn't learn that merits can keep a woman alive. But from that pasuk we learned that if there are Eidim in the world, the Mayim won't work. Maybe Reb Shimon has to agree to that. More answers lo shchicha. The fact that there are Eidim in China to know what's going on is a davar lo shchiach, and something that Reb Shimon doesn't rely on, because it's something that's very rare.
Do we believe a woman when she says, I was Mazana? First of all, eight on them, Russia, number one. And number two, maybe she does it because she wants to get rid of her husband. And that's the only way she can make her husband divorce her, by saying, I was unfaithful.
You believe her if the Mishnah said that if she's married to a Kohen, he stops eating food.
I know, but they say Stama Yisrael. If she said I was unfaithful, so do we believe her enough that we force her husband to give her a get?
Right now, the only thing we've learned about a woman admitting that she was Tmeya is that she stops eating Tuma if she's an Ashes Yisrael. If she's a Yisrael who's married to a Kohen. We haven't learned any other din.
But they'll come up though. I mean, it's an issue because
when it comes up, we're going to learn it.
Well, it probably will, because she Can she force her husband that way to give her a
In that
divorce?
case, if she's being brought, the Sotah woman, to the base of English, and she says, no, she admits, so she doesn't drink, and she loses her, gets
No, but if
divorced.
because she volunteers on her own, without any kind of, no aid and no
I'm
nothing.
gonna ask, when we're
Yeah.
now gonna learn the Mishnah,
Okay,
how this works. Meaning, we try to get the woman to admit, we don't want her to drink. So if she admits, then she gets divorced and loses her children.
yeah, but if he brought her because there was reason why he brought her, because there were suspicion, but if a
There
woman
was suspicion,
says,
but he doesn't know what happened in that room.
okay, but some woman says I was unfaithful, and then would say he was a Kohen, so obviously truly does he have to give her divorce then,
Yes.
even though Adam was not
So in a Sotah case, where he's usher to live.
Somebody needs to
has to
mute
mute.
themselves. Somebody needs to mute them.
I will, but I'm talking. That's why it's on my family's back.
Okay.
Okay, never mind. We'll go later.
Okay.
Thank
In a
you.
Sotah situation where there was Kinui and Sasira. So at that moment, the husband is usher to live with her unless she drinks the Sotah waters. Now, if on the way up, she admits, no, I had intercourse. She doesn't drink and she goes out without a ksuba. In that case, the case where they're married and there's no Sotah and she just admits, we're not dealing with that right now.
Yeah,
That's
okay.
a different case.
Okay.
Right, Alan?
I understand. Thank you. Thank you.
So that we're not holding by.
Okay.
See what happens in that case.
Okay.
We go
That's
into
a
the-
different case.
we go into the next plot.
I would like to, if you guys still have the koyach. This was a difficult plot that we just learned. Very